Hello, and thank you for joining the Tuesday edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Esther Mokwariola. Today on the program, protesters storm streets, demand end to hardship and insecurity as NLC president presents protesters' demands to the National Assembly. And later on the show, 12 years after President Tinubu adopts Oronsaye report, merges agencies. I will be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju on Olayinka Uyegbile. Journalist Hangout starts now. Let's start with efforts aimed at tackling economic hardship in Nigeria, which demand eternal vigilance on the part of everyone. The Yobe State government has set up a 24-man committee on food security to tackle scarcity and ameliorate the hardship facing citizens. But the committee is saddled with the responsibility of halting the export of grains to foreign countries and addressing the problem of hoarding of essential commodities in the state. Well, in the face of this, the prices of grains have reduced in the state. Well, let's share the story by Michael Lashoma with you.
The constant increase in food prices, not just in Yobe State, but across Nigeria, is a source of concern for Nigerians. Yobe State government has taken steps to reduce hardship on its citizens by putting punitive measures in place to checkmate hoarding and bulk purchase of food items. The actions taken by Governor Malawi to cushion the sufferings of the people is gradually yielding results.
With regards to hoarding and with regards to bulk purchases, so that individuals with the intention to cause artificial scarcity do not use Yobe's grain markets to buy up these commodities, mop up these commodities and hoard them with the intention to cause artificial scarcity and therefore unnecessary rise in the prices of these commodities. And to the glory of Almighty Allah, with the support of the security agencies, prices of these commodities, these grains, are coming down gradually across Yobe State.
To confirm what the Information Commissioner told newsmen, TVC News visited Katarku Market to confirm the prices of food items.
9,000. Up to now, 43,000. Because first time we are buying this type, 48, 49,000. We get one that we are buying it 50,000 naira. But especially like these 2 weeks now, we thank God things gone down. With the buy 42, 43, 43,500 naira.
From observation, the artificial food scarcity is gradually fading, while locals at the grassroots are commending the efforts of Brunei-led administration for ameliorating their sufferings. The 25-man committee set up by the state government has put monitoring mechanism in place to arrest any marketer who flouts government directive. Michael Oshoma, TVC News, Damaturu, Yobe State.
Well, now, BKO, this might seem a laudable, exercise on the part of the government and the people finally having a relief. But it's one thing to see a drop in price. It's another thing to ensure it is sustained. What do you make of this, and how do you think this can be done?
That's why the government has taken steps to ensure that life becomes difficult for those who have made a habit of sabotaging government's efforts by buying up grains, in large quantity, only to go and hoard it or send it across the border. So I've said before that some of these, the Nigerians are their own worst enemies. It is clear that as efforts are being made to ease the pains on our people, some people have made up their minds to profit from the pains of other people. That's what we are seeing. In Gombe State, the rice farmers blamed this extremely high price of rice on those coming to buy paddy in large quantities, only to go and hoard. And you can see in states where these steps have been taken, prices are going down. We reported prices going down in Kano. The correspondent went into the market and spoke with people, spoke with the people selling those grains, and they said, look, these prices are going down. It may not be going down substantially, but you can't deny that prices are beginning to go down. Now, the naysayers, those who are always excited about negativity, about negative news, they will say, no, it's a lie. Did they lie? I told someone, I said, okay, the heads up to look at this matter was a story by Daily Trust, which without a shadow of a doubt is one of the best newspapers in our country. Daily Trust is a newspaper that covers the North extensively. You know? So I said, go and read what Daily Trust wrote. And Daily Trust surveyed some markets in northern Nigeria and reported that the prices of grains had begun to go down. So it's not Jide who sat in Lagos and was simply saying it. No matter how bitter you get about positive news from our country, the truth remains the truth. Now look at, this is Yobe. And the report we are getting is that because of the steps that government took, they are blocking hoarders. Those who hoard these commodities, they are going after them. In Kano, they are going after hoarders. So they are forced to release the grains that they are stored in their warehouses. So naturally it will go down. Look at Kano, I mean, Kwara, we were talking about Kwara here, I think 2 days ago. And the people are reporting that because government released some palliative grains, especially maize, to the people, it has brought down the price of maize. That's Kwara. We can only talk about the places where we have evidence that these things have taken place.
Right.
This pain on Nigerians will certainly not last forever. There are people who wish that this pain should go on so that they can say, oh, I told you so. This is not the season for that. And people who wish evil against their country, they must realize that even their own members of their families will reap from the evil. This is not the time for it. Let's always think of the very vulnerable in our societies. Those are the people that we have to account for.
Right.
We have to take good care of them. We have to ensure that they do not suffer.
Right.
The religions, the major religions of the world, preach empathy for the poor. It just happens that in our country, people claim that they are good Christians, they are good Muslims, but they do not practice the tenets of those major religions. They are happy to see people suffer, they can't show mercy. They have millions of naira, they can't spare money because they believe that even in heaven they will need the money. It is foolish to think in this manner. When you go to heaven, you are going naked the way you came. And no one has been there before to come and report to us whether they spend naira or dollars there. So monies that we are piling up as if we have 2 lifetimes to spend them. We should engage our brains and stop doing this.
Indeed, I can imagine how it can be painful when discussing this matter whenever you have to give your thoughts on this. But Olayinka, you've seen the approach adopted by Yobe state government to assist the masses so they can have access to these grains. Would you suggest that this is an approach or an innovation that other states in the country should adopt? Or what other innovations do you think that should be looked into so that people can have access to common grains like rice, for instance, which is gradually getting out of reach of the common man?
Well, okay, maybe first of all, let me say that the condition in the country is not a laughable thing, and it has made BKO to become a pastor and sermonizing. Okay, now back to serious matter. My worry is not for the immediate.
Right.
Because what we are doing now, yes, set up committee, do that, fine. But we must also think of what will happen in future. When I say in future, in few months down the road, the rains are coming gradually. What we are having now are from what the harvest we've had. We need to make security paramount so that people can go back to the farms.
Right.
Because the issue of insecurity is one of the fundamental problems that have faced our production in the agri sector. And then, talking about other states, what the Yobe State governor has done is very laudable, and I think it is something that other states must learn from. How do we begin to make life easy for people? How do we try and make commodities available to people? For instance, in Lagos, I know that the Nigeria Custom started a program selling seized rice and all that. However, Nigerians, in their impatience and in the rude manner we all behave, whether in traffic, in school, or wherever, the rule says, come with your NIN number and cash.
10,000 naira.
Then, line up. But people invaded the place. You come there at 10 o'clock, you want to leave, go before the man that has been there 7 a.m., and so on. So we also must learn to obey rules. Because if people had lined up, as the custom of authorities have said, and are there orderly, everyone will get. But in a situation where people get there, everybody wants to go in at the same time, it will be lawless. And unfortunately, I think they said about 7 people have died there.
Yeah.
So, although people have started blaming custom that that's not how to do it, but the question is, how do you want them to do it? Because, in all honesty, I agree that things are hard. But even in that hard times, we must always be ready to obey the law and be very orderly. Because if people were orderly, those 5 lives would not have been lost. And in fact, those who have spent 3 hours there, if things were orderly, maybe in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, everybody will go. Because if you line up 10,000, how long does it take to count it? Then give you your bag and you walk out. But we always want to cut corners. And that is the problem we are having. So for other state governments, a lesson has been learned from Yobe State. And the good thing about this kind of thing is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. A model has been set. All you need to do is to look at it and perfect it. And for instance, in Lagos State, I see that they are trying to build all these markets and so on. It's a worthy thing to do. The important thing is that it must be hastened up, and then the source from which we get those things, we should not neglect that. As I said earlier, the rains are coming. What security measures are we putting in place so that farmers can go back to their farms? They won't be faced by kidnappers. They won't be faced by herders who will bring their cattle into their farms and all that. So those are things that need to be done for us to have a better harvest and for the prices of things to come down.
Indeed. Well, let's move on to our next issue of discussion, where a hungry man, they say, is an angry man. And Nigerian workers are demonstrating this in the face of economic hardship. For hundreds of protesters led by the Nigeria Labour Congress stormed the streets of major cities in the country over the biting economic situation. They called on the federal government to act quickly and save Nigerians from further suffering. And the president of the NLC, Joe Ajaero, handed over their letter of demands to members of the National Assembly, which include full implementation of welfare provisions, employment generation, subsidy for farmers to boost agricultural production, and repairing of 4 refineries, among others. PKO, this issue has been long overdue. We've been having this issue, Nigerians protesting over the system. It's not the first time we will have to protest over asking for the government to make the systems work. But now these protests is happening, what is the guarantee, first off, that this would yield any tangible result? Because this has been an age-long problem, if you ask me. From the challenges we're facing right now, it's not new.
Which one is an age-long problem?
You have refineries, you have the economy is not working, you have power supply, you have health systems, everything is still, it's still the same.
No, I do not agree that the economy is not working. In fact, we recorded growth in GDP in the last quarter. Yes, there are reforms that have been instituted by the government. Those reforms have come with pains. But there is some progress being made, especially in the West sector. And it was reported by even some of the West's best-known media outlets, especially the growth in GDP that were recorded. Yes, people may point at those things as things that you can't really hold on to, but progress is progress. I'm confident that the refineries, one after another, will be fixed. Even the TUC president, who is an insider, has already said that because they visited the Port Harcourt refinery and they said that by March, they are certain that the refinery will begin to work. So it's not like before when, the refineries, we will be told that the refineries will work and it will not work for years. We won't see signs. So much money has been committed to the refineries. We are seeing signs that the Port Harcourt refinery will work. And after Port Harcourt, Warri refinery, I don't know what they're going to do about Kaduna refinery. I don't know, because I'm not hearing anything about Kaduna refinery, but I know that there's a determination to get those refineries working. And I heard from the TUC president, it's not me saying it now, that by March, it will begin to work. That means that the efforts that they put into refurbishing the refineries, revamping the refineries have not been a waste. So what Labour wants is better welfare for its members. They are a pressure group. And I agree with them that where government fails to fulfill promises made to workers, they should be called out. I'm not going to sit here and say, no, you can't call out government. No, you will never hear me say that. It is the responsibility of government to cater for the welfare of the citizens. And in this case, it is the NLC leading the charge, speaking for Nigerians, that, this is what Nigerians are going through. This is what we want you to do. The NLC is saying, okay, let's energize agri-production. You have to then support farmers in various ways. If we do that, it will be one way by which we can boost agri-production. Everybody is talking now about agri-production. We have neglected agriculture for years. Now we are in a situation in which we can't feed ourselves. Whereas a country as big as China, India, the largest country in the world by population currently, having overtaken China, they are still able to feed themselves. So what is wrong with us? And we are blessed with arable land everywhere. You go to the north, the land is extremely fertile. They may not have consistent rain as much as we have. But the north, most part of the north is very fertile. I can attest to that. So the issue of the welfare of the citizens must be taken seriously by government. You don't even need the NLC to prompt you to look in that direction, because that's the responsibility of government. I know that, yes, these reforms have come with pains, but I tell people that is an inevitable pain. A country that is broke, that had even begun to borrow money to pay for subsidy. A country that was already spending about 97% of its earnings to service debt. Are we not in trouble? Or you want to deceive ourselves that, oh, we are buoyant? No, I will not join anybody who wants to get the message across that Nigeria is buoyant. Nigeria is so rich. Yet you can't pay your bills. You are taking loans all over the place like a beggar. So we have issues that need to be addressed. And what Labour has done, and I'm very happy that these protests were peaceful. We've not heard that people were fired at anywhere. They conducted themselves peacefully, and they've come up with their recommendations. For example, when they suggested that VAT should be taken off diesel, that was a good suggestion on the part of Labour. I've criticized them in the past because of the way the NSC president used to talk. But we can all see that he no longer talks like that. He no longer talks like that. That is a fact. When he was talking like that, we challenged him. Now, look, there were Labour leaders before you. They were not talking. You will never hear Baba Sumonu, the greatest of them all. You will never hear him talk with fighting words. No. Leadership comes with a high sense of responsibility. So kudos to Ajero because he no longer talks like the way he used to talk around June, July. So I support protest that is peaceful.
Right.
Not the sort of protest that will target BRT buses and start setting them ablaze. No. We need to speak to our government. What can you do to ease the pains of our people? The conversation has gone beyond, oh, bring back subsidy. The conversation now is how do we ease the pains of our people? And that's what, if we look at the recommendations, they are not making unreasonable demands. No. And that's why government needs to listen to them. If you say you are going to give me 35,000 naira wage award, and suddenly you stop giving me, I have every reason to go back to you and say, why? What happened along the line? Yeah. That's what they are doing. You know, if they can conduct themselves with decorum, nobody will say, why are they on the street? Today is gone on peacefully. Their message has been heard at the appropriate quarters. And I'm sure they'll be looking at those demands, those recommendations, because they are also partners in progress. They'll be looking at those demands and asking themselves, okay, how do we meet these demands? What do we do? And even the TUC that refused to join the protest, they've not done anything wrong. As far as they are concerned, they were not carried along. So they chose to stay away. But many people were worried. They thought this would lead to bloodshed. This would lead to real bedlam, that there will be chaos in the land. But I'm happy. Look at them. Look, nobody is carrying any court girl. You know, nobody is attacking anybody. They are just making their voices heard, and they've done it in a very responsible manner. And I commend the NSC for the way it's gone about this protest.
So, Olayinka, with that being said, when we see protests of this nature stemming from the residents' or citizens' demands from government, BKO, well, is hopeful that perhaps this administration will do the needful. But then again, some would question the sincerity of government to perhaps, you know, give in to the requests of the residents, of the citizens rather, because we've seen how the spending have gone on in public quarters. We've seen how budget has been allocated. We've seen how things has been, you know, handled, and even how, you know, lawmakers are attached some benefits to themselves. So what would you say about the sincerity of government to address this issue?
You know, I like the opening statement, the hungry man is an angry man, because there is a limit to which you can preach to a hungry man. Yoruba will say, a man that is hungry. And what we are seeing is every government comes in, there is that lingo that every one of them have used, from Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, Jonathan, Buhari, and now Tinubu, reform, reform, reform. We've had this severally. So, if Obasanjo talked of reform and we never saw the result, Yar'Adua talked of it, Jonathan talked about it, Buhari talked about it, how am I to believe Tinubu that reform? So, it is left on the part of the government to show us as citizens that, okay, I'm different from all the others. This is the destination we are in, and this is the destination I intend to take you to. And from this destination, this is how far I've gone. So, when we talk of reform, yes, it's a good thing we hear about it, but what are you reforming from the other reform that others have reformed? That's the question we must ask ourselves. Then, talking about the way the demonstration has gone, I honestly, before yesterday, I had my fears. When Labour issued a statement that we are going ahead, we are going to do the protest, police says, no, you... But yesterday, some people, maybe to gear up the Labour Union, some CSO came out and did their own, and everything was peaceful. Today now, the same thing has happened. Lagos, Abuja, everywhere, there has not been any story or any news about any fracas and all that. So, this is the way it should be. People have a right to say they are hungry, or people have a right to protest. What we will not support is that kind of protest that will lead to destruction of public property, like we had the last time. I mean, some of the property that were destroyed, we are paying for it now. And that's the reason why things are going the way they are. So, the government on its part will do its own bit, and the citizens will also have a right not to believe. It is now there for the government to take actions that will make them to believe. Because we have been hearing of reform since 1999. So the government must in its own way show us that, look, my own reform, the Tinubu reform, is different from the Buhari reform, Jonathan, Obasanjo, and the rest of them. By their action and the way they do it. That is what people want. So that at the end of the day, we will know that, okay, we might be suffering now, but we know that we will enjoy later. But not a situation where we are asked to suffer and we will enjoy later. And at the end of the day, you find out that nothing has changed. That's the way I see it.
And let's hope something is done soon enough to alleviate the suffering of the people. Well, you're still on to Journalist Hangout. We have more coming your way in just a moment. Stay with us.
This is the man the hearts of Nasarawa beats for. A man who has continued to live on his promises. A man that has affected the lives of his people, irrespective of tribe or religion.
All right, let's quickly go on a very quick break. You're still on to Journalist Hangout. We'll be back in just a moment.
Wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
The Inspector General of Police has met with senior officers to review the state of security.
We are continuing our coverage of the arrest of Godwin Emefiele.
The Senate has summoned the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to properly brief the Senate regarding the state of the economy.
President Bola Tinubu has announced the total removal of fuel subsidy.
The first subsidy is gone. What I will never take is threat.
Let's now bring you more development from Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, where an explosion has taken place. Tell us about this incident.
TVC News, first with breaking news.
Every second, every minute, every hour, and every day, time doesn't just tick away. It counts down to political decisions that shape our world.
This country must move.
Imagine the impact these decisions have on our lives. Some are consequential, others may leave us intrigued or baffled.
You will have no better friend and partner than Nigeria.
Step in.
Welcome back. It's the Answered Journalist Hangout. Well, there is nothing stopping an idea whose time has come. 12 years ago, 12 years after Stephen Oronsaye report on public sector reforms, President Bola Tinubu has ordered the implementation of some of its recommendations to reduce the cost of governance. As such, 29 government agencies will be merged, while 8 parastatals will be subsumed into other agencies. Also, 4 agencies will be relocated to 4 various ministries, while 1 has been earmarked for scrapping. Well, let's share this story by our correspondent, Femi Akonde, with you.
After more than a decade of gathering dust, the Oronsaye report finally sees the light of day. President Bola Tinubu has taken a decision to tread where others feared, by fine-tuning and restructuring the operations of government to cut costs and improve efficiency. The implementation involves merging, subsuming, and scrapping agencies with similar functions. The president has also constituted a committee that will work within a 12-week period to actualize this new directive.
National Agency for Control of AIDS, HIV/AIDS, NACA, to be merged with the Center for Disease Control in the Federal Ministry of Health. National Emergency Management Agency to be merged with the National Commission for Refugee Migration and Internally Displaced Persons.
Now, what that means is that a number of agencies, commissions, and some departments have actually been scrapped. Some have been merged, while others have been subsumed.
The Federal Executive Council meeting also received the report submitted by the Interministerial Panel set up to review the affairs of the National Social Investment Program. Significant recommendations were approved by President Tinubu, and these include social security payments to vulnerable households, payment of unemployment benefits, a social consumer credit program, among others.
Comprising 60 million Nigerians is to resume immediately with the proviso, with the important proviso that every beneficiary will be identified by their NIN, National Identity Number, and their BVN.
And what we're looking to do here is the triangulation of this data set to ensure that not only are we using the register that is properly been populated, but that we also do proper verification of every individual that will benefit from that investment, that social investment program.
For the Ministry of Works, approval was given for the construction of a 700-kilometer coastal road from Lagos through coastal states to cross River State.
Goes through Lagos, goes through the Lekki Deep Sea Port, goes through Ogun State, Ondo State, Delta, Bayelsa, Port Harcourt, Akwa Ibom to Cross River. But we also have two spurs, spurs that leads to the north. That goes from the ongoing Badagry-Sokoto road, and the one that leads to the Trans-Sahara route that goes from Ogoja down to Cameroon.
All eyes will now be on President Tinubu's administration as he takes bold steps towards the implementation of a report considered to be the silver bullet in restructuring and reforming Nigeria's civil service through the rationalization of agencies. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
BKO, this thing is seen as a silver bullet, according to our correspondent, Femi Akonde, for restructuring in Nigeria's public service. But let's start first with what is the Oronsaye report, for the sake of those who are yet to understand what exactly it means, and just to put it into context.
Okay. In the year 2012, Oronsaye submitted a report to President Jonathan, who had set up what was called the Presidential Committee on Restructuring and Rationalization of Federal Government Parastatus Commissions and Agencies under the former head of service, Stephen Oronsaye. Oronsaye was President Obasanjo's principal secretary, before the then president promoted him and made him head of service. So he established at that time in his 800-page report, he recommended that 263 of the statutory agencies be slashed to 161, which means more than 100 of those agencies had to go. He also recommended that 38 agencies be scrapped, 52 should be merged, and 14 should revert to the departments that they originated from. So we talked about agencies like the Public Complaints Commission, National Poverty Eradication Program, Utilities Charges Commission, National Agency for the Control of HIV/AIDS, National Intelligence Committee. He recommended that those committees, those agencies should be scrapped outright. And then he recommended that 14 agencies be merged with the ministry that they originated from. Agencies like Debt Management Office, he recommended that it should be fused with the Ministry of Finance. The National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, it recommended that it should be fused with the Ministry of Communication Technology. He also recommended that 52 institutions be merged, and institutions like NTA, Voice of Nigeria, FRCN, he recommended that they should be merged. He recommended that the NCC and the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation, NBC, should be merged, and that it should then be called the Communication Regulatory Authority of Nigeria. In the same vein, he recommended that the anti-corruption agencies, that's the Code of Conduct Bureau, EFCC, the ICPC, they should be merged into what will be called Anti-Corruption Commission. The old man, whom I met sometime last year, because he had been lying low for years, Oronsaye is one clear evidence in our country that when you move against corruption, or you chose the path, when you choose the path of the truth, they will come for you. They put this man on trial over a phony corruption allegations, which they couldn't prove in court. I remember as far back as 2017, I'd been saying it that Oronsaye did nothing wrong. And I was sure that they would not secure conviction. I've been vindicated. Because they tried to, you see, he offended people not just by these recommendations. You know, in the Federal Civil Service, Oronsaye suggested that PAMSECs and directors should be tenured. You see somebody, a PAMSEC would be holding on to his position 10 years, which will make it impossible for other people to grow.
Yeah.
Many people, for example, maybe 10 persons, will end up retiring as directors because the person in front of them has chosen not to go. Of course, the law or the regulations permit him to stay indefinitely. Yeah. He's saying that, no, let us have them tenured. For that reason, powerful people moved against him, cooked up lies against him, and put him on trial. Today, when you go to Oronsaye, his TV does not work. He's fed up with Nigeria. This is what I saw because I visited him in Abuja. His TV is permanently off. He doesn't want to, because he just could not believe that having worked for his country, you can imagine an 800-page report. You know the energy, the hard work that must have gone into it. And we just left the report to gather dust. And this is something that we need to do. We need a nimble civil service.
Right.
Not a civil service where 16 persons are drivers to 2 vehicles.
If not one.
Let's even be decent. 2 vehicles. All of them are drivers. The Nigerian bureaucracy is carrying so much dead weight. People don't like it when we talk like this, but that is their problem. It's got so much dead weight. What do we need all of those agencies for? And the unfortunate thing is that in the last few years, the last 12 years, we have created more bureaucracies. Yeah. Every little thing we are setting up a commission. Every little thing we are setting up a commission. I remember Senator Ali Ndume saying the other day that, why is it that the money that we spend on recurrent keeps going up? Despite the fact that they said, okay, we are putting an embargo on fresh employment. So what is the problem? Every little thing, we want to set up a commission for this, set up a commission for that, so that we can employ people and populate the civil service with dead woods, people who do not offer value. I'm not saying that everyone is like that, but you cannot tell me that we do not have so many dead woods in the civil service. There are examples. If they want us to show evidence, we will show evidence. But you know, this sort of thing, President Tinubu was confronted with this sort of thing in Lagos. Yeah. And he right-sized the Lagos civil service. He was not even afraid that he would not be re-elected. I've given this example many times. He right-sized the civil service. They went on strike. Akele, all of them. But he stood firm. That's why on the day of election in Ward C, where he voted, the civil servants defeated him at his polling unit. In Ward C, here, where he voted. They defeated Tinubu right there where he lined up to vote because he decided to right-size the civil service. But it is the way to go. Right. There is we are a very wasteful country. So avenues through which resources are being wasted, there are too many. And then people are making sacrifices here and there. So this is the thing. I believe that this is one of the big steps that the Nigerian government has taken in a long time. Right. Look at all of those. If somebody recommended the scrapping of more than 100 agencies, that should tell you that we have too many. So government must be faithful. And I'm happy for one thing.
Right.
It's not, this is an example of reform. For example, reforming the civil service. You can't right-size the civil service and say that's not a reform. This is reform. We are seeing evidence of this reform. This one is not far-fetched. We are seeing it, and they have put a time frame to it. So our own now is to look at them. Okay, you said you will submit report. This thing will take effect so time. We will be looking at them like Ekiti, but let us see whether at that time this thing won't take off. It has to take off. A government must find the courage to do it.
And that is why I will have to ask you this question,
Yes.
Olayinka. What will it take for the government to take this off, and what will be, will I say, the variables or the indices to show that the government has taken this bold step, or has implemented rather the report?
Well, they said in 12 weeks. So let's wait for those 12 weeks to come. However, in the face of all this, we better late than never.
Right.
I think the president has done the right thing. But the question I will have asked is, you know, before he was sworn in, usually there is the transition committee and all that. Did the transition committee take a look at this report? Because by the time the president came in, some of the heads of those agencies we are talking about have been appointed. So what happened to them now? I would have thought that if this was in the works, we would have delayed their appointment. Let us have this reform or whatever it is, and then you can appoint. But it is only a foolish man who will make a mistake and not correct himself, or you will want to do the same thing and get a different result. The government has seen now that this must be done. 12 weeks is just down the road there. God giving us life. We will see in 12 weeks or 13 weeks, we'll come back here and ask them what has happened, so that the report of the committee that is studying the Oronsaye report will not also go and gather dust. Because that is important. In fact, some of the agencies, the way they've been operating, the EFCC, what is the EFCC supposed to do? The other day, they went to Federal University of Technology, Akure, or thereabout, to go and raid student hostel. Is that the job of the EFCC? No, the EFCC is supposed to face the issue of economic sabotage by government big men and all that. The fraud unit of the police is supposed to do that one with the students or whoever. So now that this the rationalization has come, it will give the agencies a focus. And then, of course, there is that fear already that some people will lose their job. Well, every reform or every rejigging of the system must come with some implications. So everyone, because you have some people who go to their offices, they resume in the office in the morning, perhaps to read newspaper or watch Nollywood from 7:30 to 4:30 or whatever time they close. There are some civil servants today, they can tell you the story of Nollywood more than the work they are doing, because they sit down all day watching.
They cross their legs.
Exactly. So with this one now, we are going to, I believe that we are going to have a nimble system, a system that is going to be compact and ready to work and make changes. Because we've had too many unnecessary passengers all along the road, wasting, constituting a clog wheel in the progress of the civil service and the agencies.
The truth really is that it's not even sustainable.
Yeah.
Except we want to lie to ourselves. It's not sustainable. The kind of money that we are spending on our peculiar bureaucracy is not sustainable. The last administration was printing naira notes because at a point it could no longer pay salaries. When somebody said it, they rose in a wave to abuse him. They said, no, it's not true. And they knew in their hearts.
Of course.
23 trillion naira. Waste and means. Simply printing money without any economic, anything of economic value to back it up. We now have a bureaucracy that is a threat to the smooth running of government.
Yeah. And that cannot continue.
It can't continue. Many of us cannot run our parents' company the way we run.
No.
Many of us, if it's your own company, you will run it in a good way because you don't want it to die.
Of course.
But when it is anything about government, you don't care.
You
don't care whether 60% out of the workforce are doing
nothing. Yeah.
Or whether one person can do the job of 5 persons. You don't care. And a lot of these people actually have other jobs that they do.
Of course. The civil service is just a part-time or...
So what we have, a situation, when the CBN said it was moving some offices to Lagos, some people began to shout. They turned it into an ethnic thing. Whereas, there is greater job for them to do here.
Of course.
If the bulk of the banks here, 99.9% of the bank, they are headquarters in Lagos.
Yes.
So you are supervising them, what are you doing in Abuja? We should engage our brains for God's sake. Or you have a unit that monitors the stock market. There's only one stock market in our country.
Of
and
course.
It is here in Lagos.
It's here in Lagos. And the headquarters is in Abuja.
It's part of what breeds inefficiency in the system. A civil service that is populated by dead woods will never yield dividends for our country.
Not at all.
I'm happy that someone has found the courage, because before now, due to political expediency, we refuse to touch this report.
The report.
And it's the same way we've treated many reports.
Almost everything.
Killings in the country, they've set up all kinds of reports. You set them up, they brief you report, you lack the courage to implement. The same way we watch the courts sentence bad people to death. People do not deserve to live with us. When they sentence them to death, you won't have the courage to sign the death warrant. But you can pass instruction for a political talk to go and take a life. I mean, this is the problem. Our governors, they can't sign this thing. Death warrant.
That's why we feel so many people who should have been
judicial this thing, and they were found to deserve to die.
Yeah.
You cannot sign. You lack the courage. You can't find the courage to sign, but you can send your boys. Go on. That guy is a thorn in my neck. Go and waste him.
So the bottom line here is that government needs to find the courage to implement this report.
It has already found the courage. Let's not. If somebody can give himself a timeline, it's not a question of not finding the courage to even bring it out. President Buhari didn't bring it out. He never told us he will implement it. Jonathan, who even set it up, never told you that he will implement it. Somebody has come out to say, now I'm going to implement this, and I'm going to implement in 12 weeks. So the issue is not find
courage.
So
we follow it up in another 12 weeks.
So let's
it has already found courage. Let's not talk about...
we wait for it down the road in another 12 weeks.
Which courage again?
Well, that's where we have to leave today's discussion on Journalist Hangouts. Thank you so much, my guests in the studio, BK Obajide Koleyode Otitoju and Olayinka Oyegbile. It's a pleasure, as always, having your thoughts. Well, that's it, folks. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch a repeat broadcast of it tonight. And join us again on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30. We are also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Many thanks for watching. I am Esther Mopariola. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.